Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Watch Oscar podcast. I'm your host, Eric Anderson. This is podcast number 55, and it is Tuesday, July 11th, right? It's the 11th. And I have with me three genuine, bona fide Gold Rush gang members. It's always hard to corral these guys, so it's really great to have them here. I have Jason. Hello, Jason.
Oh, hello.
I have Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
And Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Yay. All right. I'm really glad to have all these guys here. And what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover the new members that were announced as invitees to the Academy. There's a lot to unpack in there, and there's been some pretty bizarre takes on the people on the list. And and we're going to talk about the upcoming festivals, fall festivals, mostly Venice and New York, and kind of what we think might get in there, and just the few things that we do know about them. And then, of course, our current Oscar predictions for right now. Not everything, but just kind of, talking around it. So kicking off, the Academy invited just about 2 weeks ago 774 new members, and that was a jump of about 140 more from the number from 2016, which was already a record. And this has all been in an effort to really create more of a balance of female and non-white members, and I think that they're doing a pretty fantastic job. I think we have a lot of variety. There isn't anything that I can see without a few exceptions. Like Lou Ferrigno's a pretty funny addition, but I don't really care. But there's not a lot that I can look at and go, why would you do this? They're only on TV. And that's what I've heard a lot of people say. Even like someone like Betty White, who's 119 years old. And people are like, well, she's just being asked now? Well, because she's primarily been a television actress. But I still don't see the issue with somebody like her here. I want to reach out to you guys then and tell me what you think of some of the thoughts that some of the names added sort of dilute it and aren't valid, and if you agree or disagree. Richard, let's start with you.
So, yeah, I mean, I am kind of aligned, I think, with you, Eric, in feeling that this is overall very positive, and I feel like one of the most prevalent criticisms is what you touched on, which is that some of these folks who've been invited are not deserving of entering the Academy, which kind of brings up for me the question of what makes admission into this group, what makes one deserve that, or what should the Academy look like, or what types of people need to be there, and how do you kind of define that? So I feel like if you look or think about some of the people who are in the Academy who were invited many, many moons ago, I mean, are all of them deserving of being there? If you're going to examine some of these folks who have just been admitted and who have, not a huge, long CV, then shouldn't you apply that same kind of like scrutiny to older folks maybe who were invited a couple decades ago? And, are all of them deserving? No, probably not. And so you're taking these people who, some of which, are probably in a similar position of not having the same fantastic resume as, a Meryl Streep or whoever, and then looking, though, that the efforts clearly are to, make the Academy more representative of what the U.S. and the world is. So in that sense, I feel like there's no diluting of the talent really, because I still feel like there are people who, you know, have worked a lot and some who maybe have not. But if you're inviting such a higher sort of percentage of women and people of color, then it allows the group as a whole to become sort of, I guess, more representative of, you know, of, like I said, the nation and the world a little bit, which I think is the goal, that they're recognizing films that reflect, you know, real life and are not only showing a very narrow sort of, you know, scope of narratives.
I agree, and there's a weird like underlying current that seems like, you know, asking somebody like Terry Crews to be a voting member, and that being not a good thing, is like implying that he somehow won't have good taste in movies, when we've seen plenty of high profile people with shitty taste in movies.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And
it's a weird discriminatory position.
what's not good taste is calling out individuals in an article that you write. Terry Crews, Zoe Kravitz. Clearly, someone did not watch Big Little Lies.
Mm-hmm.
Wanda Sykes, etc. Like, can we not go there? I feel like that's not very classy or professional.
No, and you know, you get appropriately dragged for it if that happens. Matt, what's your thought on
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I was thinking about it a lot, and it's like, you know, I think you mentioned it was sort of like, just because someone has, you know, certain resume that may not be completely sort of in the film landscape doesn't necessarily devalue their work, or even is an example of what their taste might be like and the type of films they do like. So like, I don't understand that. Like Dwayne Johnson's in the Academy, and like, I love Dwayne Johnson, but he hasn't shown like that he has like this exemplary taste in movies. So just because he's done a bunch of movies that have been successful, I don't see how that makes his membership any more valid than someone else's. You know what I mean?
That's okay. He's running for president, so we won't have to worry about him making movies.
He's going all out. So I guess this is just one step towards that for him.
It is.
But I don't know. You know, I think what I really like that they've done the past couple of years is the directors branch, especially. They've been on a lot of international directors, which I really like that they're doing that, because the directors branch is sort of, I would say, the most unique branch of the Academy as it is. And sort of now, I think we're going to get even more and more sort of unique nominations, sort of like Michael Haneke was sort of a unique, interesting one. And I think you're sort of going to get more and more of those along those lines. Sort of Ben Zeitlin. The whole 2012 director nominee thing was such a sort of mind screw up, because you saw Catherine Bigelow snubbed, which I wasn't too thrilled with. Then you saw Ben Affleck snubbed, which I didn't really care about. But I just liked that it was sort of a curveball, and I think you're going to see more and more of that, and I think that makes it more interesting and makes this sort of more difficult, which is fine. It just makes it more interesting. I think you see with Moonlight winning Best Picture, I think it just sort of, I think this whole predicting thing is getting a lot more difficult. It's getting a lot more difficult to define exactly what a Best Picture winner is or could be. So I like that they're sort of, you know, diversifying and not necessarily staying in one box in terms of what an Academy member is or should be. So I like what they're doing. I really have a problem, you know, and I think that I think what they're doing is good, and I think they're doing it for the right reasons. So I think that's I'm fine with it.
I agree, and I'm glad you brought up the director's branch, because that's something I wanted to get to after we hear from Jason. Yeah, Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like, to add to that, I think it's okay to hold some criticism for some of the choices. Like, one Academy member admission that took me by surprise was Jordan Peele. Not for his screenwriting, but he was also added to the director's branch, and I felt that was a little premature with just one movie under his belt. And they just kind of blew their load really early over the big cloud of hype this movie's been generating.
This is a family show, Jason.
That was graphic.
So, yeah.
Okay, but
like
Barbara Streisand was added to the Academy before she won Best Actress in a tie. So, and I'm not gonna drag Barbara Streisand, but I see where you're coming from, but I don't
No, I'm saying
I don't
why did they have
see-
to add him to two branches? He's in the screenwriters branch and the directors branch already.
Well,
Sure.
you have to pick one.
There's multiple.
I thought he's in both.
No.
No,
You
you
can
have
only
to
be in
choose
one.
one.
You have to pick one, yeah.
You have to pick one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Barry
I didn't-
Jenkins was invited to both the directing and the screenwriting. But
Gotcha.
I know which one he's picking, but
Directing.
yes.
I
Which makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
mean, I think that's a smaller branch, right? So your vote would maybe have more impact as well
The director's branch is that much
compared to
smaller.
the writing branch, right?
Yeah, more
Yeah,
impactful.
The directing
and
branch is
more
getting
interesting.
huge now, and it's getting extremely international. And I think this is something that is
It's a great opportunity to nominate Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I know. That's the the weird thing is last year also the directing branch saw the biggest increase, and it did this year as well. But you still got Mel Gibson, so there's always going to be holdouts until there isn't an old white majority. But in looking at this new list and how predominantly international it is, I think this is going to really change the curve of the future of the Oscars, because I think a lot of people that watch the show, that aren't crazy invested like we are or stuff like that, or just don't watch that many movies, they'll see the Oscars, and if they don't see basically all American films represented, then they don't feel that it's valid. And I think we're actually going to see a lot more international representation and more possibilities of foreign films in Best Picture and in directing and writing and all of that. And I think it's going to be a strange thing. I think it's great for the Academy, and I think it's going to be great for the awards. But as a mainstream event, I think it might be. I don't want to say damaging. I think it just might be really strange for some people that are never going to, have not heard of Lav Diaz. So,
I mean, you're making it sound like that, the Oscars are going to become the Cannes Film Festival or something, which I feel like is not going to be the case. I mean, if what you described happens, I feel like it will be very gradual, and still, even over the course of decades, I feel like the movies that are able to sustain sort of buzz and fame in the U.S. are still going to be predominantly English language and American movies. So maybe this can allow, quirky passion picks or international things to happen to a greater extent. But I still feel like it will, be. I don't know. I don't see a drastic change happening anytime soon. I think though that. I don't know. I maybe see small changes, I suppose. I think Moonlight winning over La La Land could maybe be attributed to the diversity efforts, like Matt mentioned before.
It's 100% that. It's
right.
It's absolutely that. And this last year with the huge group that was added was a real test year. And it showed that increase of 683 or 38, I keep mixing them up, had a real impact. And this group of 774, and this is also too, these are just invitations going out. We don't ever really know who's accepted unless they are vocal about it. Again, is Lav Diaz gonna be yes, I'm totally gonna be voting for the Oscars? You don't know.
Right.
You don't know. But I, just like last year was a really big litmus test for potential change, this year is going to be as well, because we have a lot less diversity in the films this year than last year, and performances and all of that. So we might see a pendulum swing back.
I guess what I feel is by the time January rolls around and voting begins, there's a very, I feel for the most part, limited number of films that are basically even in the conversation. So that's kind of what I was touching on. I mean, there can be, like I said, unique picks or whatever you may call it, but by January, like the list, I feel like has been whittled down to, a couple dozen films that people in any sizable amount are even going to watch. So,
yes,
I feel like there are other things that would need to change as well in a larger sort of sense within the industry that would potentially bring about more drastic change, like you mentioned. But
well, yeah,
we'll see.
Something like that, like the Oscars, is like it's the superficial, and it's the top of this. But yes, the changes have to happen from the very bottom, and that's at casting and writing and all of that, for sure.
Yeah, and I think those things are slowly changing, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. And also too, when we're talking about the Oscars, each year presents itself with a social narrative of some kind that is potentially able for them to address. And certainly this year was addressing the lack of diversity of the last 2 years. And this year, I would be really shocked if we did not see an extremely political slant to the types of films that get nominated and potentially win.
Yeah, I feel like we've already kind of seen it. For one, The Papers or whatever it's called, is being released this year, and it just started filming.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a clear statement, and I think also the Farhadi film winning foreign film can be attributed probably to the travel ban controversy.
Absolutely.
So it's only been 6 months, and we already have seen the effects. So I agree.
Mm-hmm.
To some extent.
Yeah, and yeah, this year, I mean, we do have a few things that will be able to sort of represent elements of social and political climate, and The Papers being one, and Detroit. And right now, those movies are like 1 and 2 with our predictions. And just
the other thing I wanted to mention was the last 2 years, you've seen sort of semi upsets, at least in Best Picture, I would say, and the biggest thing that those campaigns had going for them, I think, were that both Spotlight and Moonlight had maybe a gravitas, a sort of emotional heft, a sort of social currency relevance, whatever you want to call it, that I would say The Revenant and La La Land didn't really have. I think those two things are important because you see sort of the Best Picture prize. A lot of Academy members want to see it as something that, makes them look good, makes them look like they're conscious of sort of the times they're in and sort of the moment they're in. And
absolutely.
I think you saw sort of Moonlight, Spotlight, and even I would say, even though it didn't win, I think The Big Short, those movies were trying to take advantage of, I think, where The Revenant and La La Land lacked, and that's sort of that they didn't really have any sort of heft behind them in terms of emotion, either emotion in the film, I would say, or specifically, I would say, sort of some sort of topicality, sort of social relevance, something like that. And I think that's important. And when you have the preferential ballot, you have sort of an opportunity where someone can put maybe a movie number 1 on their sort of Best Picture ballot, and maybe not give it the Best Director win, but sort of split. And I think that's why you're seeing more and more splits. You have sort of this idea of what a Best Picture winner is, and I think some Academy members have this real sort of perception of what that is, and they sort of stick to it. And I think that's why you're seeing some of these splits lately.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the ballot, preferential ballot has changed that quite a bit, but it is just still kind of mind-blowing to see the amount of splits that we've seen, which just was not really ever the case before, not with this regularity. So it's kind of impressive, and it's a bit of a change from what the splits used to be. The splits used to be sometimes, the bigger production film would win, but the more artful, careful direction sometimes would take over, like Gladiator and Steven Soderbergh. And we're sort of seeing the opposite, where the bigger directorial achievement, the more difficult film is going to the director, but the more, I guess, personal and or gravitas film, like you mentioned, is getting Best Picture. It's strange.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that would be the case the last few years. Like Spotlight, I don't think was ever seen as sort of a directorial achievement at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Revenant was seen as exactly that. It was a feat of directorial sort of, stature, whatever you want to call it. That was the primary sort of praise that was heaped on The Revenant, was Inarritu sort of using that landscape to his advantage. And I think Spotlight was more of an actor, writer-driven sort of story. And I think that's why that split happened. Moonlight La La Land is such a unique case, and I don't want to even say that La La Land was more of a directorial achievement than Moonlight, because I'm not really sure that's the case. I just think that was I think it's still so fresh that it's sort of still hard to process what happened. And sort of, not only that, but the chaos that ensued as the show went on. It's so bizarre and it's so out of left field that I think it's sort of hard to contextualize it right this second. I think it's still going to take some time. But
I feel like the bigger the scope of a movie, the more of the director achievement it is in voters' eyes, like Moonlight, which was snubbed in director at BAFTA. So it makes me sort of wonder, did voters view it as a director's achievement? I know critics and cinephiles did, but
you could say the same about Gravity, 12 Years a Slave too, right? So
sort of, but in any other year, 12 Years a Slave would have won Best Director. Gravity is just such an unprecedented case.
Yeah, those two, I think.
Moonlight was actually snubbed in director, had a major awards body, so it just makes me wonder slightly.
Yeah, I think that's very valid, and that was a pretty clear indicator that, I mean, if there was going to be an upset, that's not the category that it would have been in. So, well, do you guys have any more thoughts on the new membership? Any weird things outside of the I mean there were some strange things like Nat Sanders, who was Moonlight's editor, got in, but the co-editor and co-Oscar nominee Joy McMillan did not. I thought that was really
Is there an explanation?
Strange.
I mean, there's no explanation other than it was her first breakthrough film. But that shouldn't really matter because performances get in. Lucas Hedges is in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are they both in that Editors Guild?
That's a good question. Maybe not.
I was surprised that...
I mean, how would that matter?
But yeah.
I was
Sorry,
surprised that Viggo Mortensen... I think that I read that he had declined before previously, but it was just weird to sort of see him there because you figured he would have already been in. But I guess he's planning on accepting this time, and he declined last time. I think that's what I read, but it was sort of funny. On the list.
That's what he had said.
Yeah, just because he had already been nominated, I think, a decade ago for Eastern Promises, but I guess he must have declined at that point. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Then let's go ahead and move on to the next section, and that's just talking a little bit about the upcoming festivals. Let's actually do Venice first. And I mean, the only thing we really have right now is that Annette Bening is the jury president, which is awesome. She's the first woman to lead this jury in 11 years, which is very cool. And so then there will be a male sort of master of ceremonies, which is pretty cool. And he's super cute, so that's nice.
Yes.
Venice is a curious festival. It's been a kickoff for a lot of films. Gravity and La La Land, Spotlight, Birdman, and it feels like a great place to definitely start. But then there's always too the battles between Toronto and Telluride and New York and all of these festivals to get world premieres, and if you're at one you can't beat another, and just a tremendous amount of politics with that. Jason, I kind of want to let you talk a bit about this because I feel you're very clued in, much more so even than I am on this.
All right. So usually at the Venice Film Festival, we get a series of awards contenders premiering there. And typically Paramount likes to show off one of their movies that will later release in the fall. And I expect this year Suburbicon from George Clooney, which was rumored to open the festival, or Alexander Payne's Downsizing, which in a deadline piece was teased to potentially be premiering in competition there. And then also Focus Features almost always likes to premiere something in competition to generate some awards heat and ignore Telluride. And that, I think we are going to see Joe Wright reappear there for the first time since Atonement with Darkest Hour. But you could also potentially see Stephen Frears bring Victoria.
Yeah, I almost feel like that seems more likely.
And maybe. I know they didn't bring Anna Karenina, but that was kind of a flop for them. But I feel like they bring Gary Oldman's been there with Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Joe Wright has some precedence there with Atonement that if Darkest Hour is the movie we all think it is, it should be premiering there. But I also think we're only going to get one of them.
Yeah, I also feel like, not that I know, I was going to say not that I know much, but like Eric said, I kind of, like my intuition feels more like Victoria and Abdul over Darkest Hour. I don't know, I feel like Frears, that connection seems stronger than, when I think of Darkest Hour, I'm thinking kind of a little bit, well, I suppose like Victoria and Abdul might also be like middling Oscar bait, but I feel like I also think of Darkest Hour as that too. But at least the Victoria and Abdul has the Frears connection, which I feel like is just more of a European festival sort of stronger connection than Joe Wright.
Yeah, I'm just a little skeptical of its September release date and what they're planning around that. Like, it makes me think it's lesser of a contender, like lesser of a priority for Focus. And usually their highest priority premieres at Venice.
It's their only like possible focus. No pun intended. But right.
Well, I mean, if you look at the last couple of years of Focus,
they really...
like just last year they did Loving at the Cannes Film Festival, and it got pretty kind of like middling reviews, and it was maybe not the best place to start there because it had to work its way up, just to get that single nomination. And then The Danish Girl started at Venice. It also got kind of middling reviews, but then, ended up a little bit better and obviously had that really unfortunate win. So,
And then, I said, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is also Focus, and Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Also premiered there.
Yeah, I saw Loving at TIFF, and I feel like it had a way better reception there than Cannes. Like most people I talked to who saw it at TIFF really liked it. I don't think Cannes was the right place for it. It seemed a little bizarre. So I think they're probably going to try and stay away from Cannes for the near future with those type of contenders. But I don't know. Focus doesn't seem to like Telluride for some reason. I think Jason mentioned that. I'm not really sure why. They seem to either premiere at Toronto or they seem to go from Venice straight to Toronto. For some reason, they don't.
I think they want the opening weekend.
Yeah, that could be it.
Premiere.
Yeah.
But then, keep going.
No,
Sorry.
Go on.
Oh, and then there's like one contender that I think is definitely going to premiere at Venice because it picked up distribution just about everywhere besides the United States at Cannes, which is Disobedience, which is with Rachel Weisz and
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, which explores, which is like a love story that explores homosexuality within the Orthodox Jewish faith.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's directed by Sebastian Lila, who did A Fantastic Woman, which also premiered at Berlin. So, but Disobedience to me reads as like the perfect Sony Pictures Classics movie.
Yep.
But A Fantastic Woman is already that. So I feel like they're not going to want to compete with each other. So I'm expecting maybe like A24 or Annapurna to pick it up. It literally has picked it up everywhere besides the United States. If you check, Film Nation sold it to every territory but the United States. So I feel like an acquisition is just.
But if either, like for example, if either of those distributors pick it up, do you think they'll even really campaign it? Like A24 or Annapurna both seem to have a primary contender. It seems maybe.
Yeah, it was like a secondary contender for them. Like neither of them have an actress contender. So Rachel Weisz.
Right.
Yeah,
that's why I'm thinking one of those two.
Yeah, Disobedience.
Everyone else has their actress
one of those
contenders
movies
already.
that, you know, as we're past the halfway mark of the year, that a lot of us are still looking on, but sitting on as a, you know, is this happening? Is it happening this year? Is it going to take, you know, a festival run for somebody to pick it up? And yeah, Sony Pictures Classics would be great, but they are stacked with Best Actress contenders right now. You know who doesn't, but has way too many movies already, though, is Amazon. The majority of their films...
Yeah, they do. And Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I guess you really wouldn't want to run anybody against Kate Winslet. She would just eat them for breakfast. But, I mean, outside of that, it's a pretty male-dominated schedule that they have. So they could. But
I remember A24 wanted Jackie, so I'm not discounting Disobedience, potentially going to them, and they could find room. They only have the Disaster Artist play in December.
Yeah,
they could add one more
scheduled Lean on Pete yet, so they're sitting on that for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
That's strange. I honestly thought Lean on Pete was going to be their number one, so I'm surprised they haven't scheduled that at least.
And it's been so strange because they've dated virtually every other film except for that, and it's strange. I mean, it makes me think that they don't feel that good about it, and you know they're waiting.
I kind of track like the employees who watch their movies because I follow some of them on Letterboxd and they log when they see movies in the office, and none of them have logged Lean on Pete yet. So I don't even feel like they've seen it. Maybe it's not completed yet.
On paper, it seemed like one of the few movies this year that had sort of the weight, the potential to be a potential winner. I mean, so it was just surprising to me that I haven't really heard anything about it. I mean,
it was top 5.
So we'll see.
I mean, and Andrew Hay was, and Steve Buscemi was for, you know, when we started the predictions, but it's not now.
It always seemed like a kind of tough sell and sort of slight as a narrative.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, it seemed like he was a director that was primed for sort of a breakthrough potentially. You know, he's had a couple of critically acclaimed films. So, I mean, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a date yet. I mean, we'll see if it shows up at the fall festivals. If it doesn't show up at the fall festivals, that'll be a big red flag.
Yeah, but
it'll be like, okay, what's going on here?
And I don't expect it at Venice because I don't think A24 has ever premiered anything there.
It feels like a Telluride film, and that's like, and definitely starting there. But I mean, in the meantime of them kind of sitting on this, the Florida project just completely took over as the director that has the potential to, you know, become mainstream and more well known. And that would be really awesome.
Yeah, and he started in television with a great show called Greg the Bunny, which I grew up on. So I'm happy he...
That's good.
Sort of found all his success.
And I think Willem Dafoe is the type of actor who could definitely win. I think he's respected. I think he's well liked. I think he's been a lot of he's worked with a lot of people. So I think he's definitely a potential winner.
I think he has a lot more momentum going than Michael Stuhlbarg or Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah,
I mean, Dafoe could take it.
I don't know. I feel like Stuhlbarg has much more because not only will he have Call Me by Your Name, but he's also got The Shape of Water and The Papers and residual from Fargo. So I think he has more in his case, but it's always going to depend too on how much and how willing you are to play the awards game of this season. And
sort of like Michelle Williams last year in Manchester by the Sea, it's just one monologue why he's getting nominated. So I kind of think that puts him in a weaker position than William Dafoe. who seems like has more
Well,
of a
and Willem
prominent
Dafoe
character
has the
within the
benefit
film.
of being a previous nominee versus
And the
Spielberg.
narrative. Yeah, veteran
True.
comeback narrative.
Well, there are some sort of similarities between Stolberg's character and Mahershala Ali's character in Moonlight, right? There's the sympathetic father figure angle.
Yeah, but he's in the whole movie.
Right, I know that's true, but
Yeah.
I mean,
But he kind
I
of
think
takes the backseat until the end.
right, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Call Me by Your Name yet, so I can't really fully comment. But I mean, I think their critic awards will be interesting between Dafoe and Stolberg. I think they're going to be going head to head there, and it should be interesting to see who grabs sort of the early momentum there.
Yeah, I think it also could come a little bit down to which film emerges stronger, which at this point is kind of hard to say.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm kind of, I think, in line with Jason and Matt, where I feel like I'd give the edge at the moment to Willem Dafoe. I feel like if the film is a Best Picture nominee kind of at all, even in the lower tier, I could see him winning just because he's such a sort of respected veteran, which Stolberg does not. He just can't work that same kind of narrative. I mean, I think he's a respected character actor, but I don't think you can compare them in terms of overall industry respect or clout. So, and then what Jason said too about the one scene thing, if Dafoe has more of a regular presence throughout the film, I think that would trump having one like really good emotional scene. But if Call Me by Your Name turns out to be like, top 3 and Florida Project doesn't get like any other nominations, then I could see it tip away from Dafoe. So
and the other thing about Dafoe is I think with his role, although I haven't seen the film, I get the impression that there's a certain degree of difficulty there with him being the only sort of known actor and being able to sort of blend in seamlessly from everything I've read. Because you see sometimes where you have like a big name actor and then there's a lot of sort of lesser names or unknowns or people who've never acted before, and it just sort of throws the whole thing out of whack because it becomes distracting or whatever. But I think that he was able to pull that off and sort of blend in seamlessly. I think that's really going to help
I think
his
that
case.
benefits both Dafoe and Sean
like,
Baker with the working with kids angle.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also kind of playing against type too, because he's usually known for playing like a bunch of weirdos, and here he's playing this very apparently sympathetic character.
It's a great argument. I can't deny that argument for Dafoe. So but I mean, if he can play the social media game that little legend Brooklyn Prince is playing right now, then he'll do really well because she's amazing. That little girl is I like her.
And I don't know how much he's going to do that because I don't get the impression that he's hugely into sort of shake everybody's hand, work the room kind of guy. So I mean, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be like that. So it'll be interesting to see if he does sort of work that angle.
Will Michael Stuhlbarg do that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's true. I mean, maybe neither of them will. I mean, Mark Rylance didn't do anything. He won, so I mean.
That's because no one liked his opponent.
That's true.
Or Steve Buscemi. William Dafoe just totally replaced.
He absolutely did.
him.
I don't know. I think there was almost something about Mark Rylance's basic refusal to do anything that people must have actually really liked. I get that. Wow, we spent a lot of time on supporting actor with that. That's quite something. So what else? You Jason, you had mentioned Paramount for Suburbicon, but what about Mother?
You didn't mention Mother.
Doesn't Mother seem like a Venice
Oh,
premiere?
Mother. Yeah,
It's got to.
Yes, that's definitely going to go to Venice for sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Is Paramount just no? They can't premiere their whole lineup.
Yes.
Okay, downsizing is going to be like Labor Day, and they'll play your Suburbicon.
Downsizing will still be waiting for theatrical
downsizing
release
will still be
in
in
5 years,
test screenings
right?
in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is Matt Damon's the star of both movies, right? If one is substantially better than the other, I mean, they're going to want him to focus all their attention on one, which is more likely to be Suburbicon. So, I mean, I could see them just completely throw Downsizing under the bus if the review sort of match all these test screenings they're having.
I kind of view like again, like with the
Well,
Labor Day comparison, you have these directors who have built up so much goodwill with the studio that they'll let them premiere at whichever festival they want, regardless of the consequences.
That's true, yeah.
So, if I still expect Downsizing to go to Telluride, maybe not Venice, but because of Mother, which will 100% premiere there. But
every festival needs their flops.
Here's my only thought about
So-
Mother being there because of the date of the festival. I mean, it ends a full month before the film comes out, and I just feel like they are so desperately trying to keep the movie under wraps as much as possible. And is it?
Trailer's coming though, apparently.
I feel like it's going to be really, really vague, though.
Yeah,
it's going to be like a 1 minute.
The
You're
exact
just going
same
to tell you
way,
like nothing.
which almost makes me wanted to like skip Venice and go to New York so that there's very little time between it premiering and it being released. Because
maybe, but I think they're a little mixed on.
yeah, no, I mean I don't think it's going to
New
happen.
York.
I think it will be at Venice, but it's that will spoil the mystery for the film pretty quickly, and I just it seems like that they're really trying to hold it close to the vest. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Jason and I had a fond debate recently about a similar topic in terms of Blade Runner, and he seems inclined to think it will play at a festival, and I was kind of
because I think it's pretty art house.
It is, but I still feel like it doesn't need to do that, and it's a film like Eric was just describing where they don't want to have it revealed early.
Like it was originally going to come out in the summer, and then they moved it to October. I know they moved it to October, and I feel like you put it at that point where there's going to be like skepticism about it if you don't show it early. Is it bad? Is it disappointing if you just wait till the week of like? I mean, no, Mad Max still premiered technically at Cannes, so I can't say that. But the only movie that comes to mind that's like a big studio movie that ignored the festivals was Girl on the Train last year.
But
I know. I'm just saying, like when you premiere in October, you're typically show it.
But like Skyfall premiered in November, and that's sort of art house. I mean, I feel like it was a little, sort of stylized and part of a franchise. And it didn't do a festival, and Mad Max was kind of art housey, and yes, it played Cannes, but a day before it opened, so
opening films count. There don't count in this realm whatsoever. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like profile that it was a Cannes movie, and especially with George Miller being the president the year after.
I mean, with Blade Runner, there is sort of, at least with Toronto potential, there is obviously a Canadian connection there with Villeneuve and Gosling. So I'm sure they'll probably push hard for it, but I sort of lean to sort of Richard's point of view that I think they're probably going to want to keep the secrecy of it.
There's no secrecy, but okay.
I mean,
there's anticipation,
but I mean, like you're talking about a sequel that's a sequel to like what, a 30-year-old movie. I think with so much sort of build up in terms of how long it's been, I think that even if the movie doesn't have as much secrecy as it's letting on, I think they're going to want to keep that sort of in play, that angle of it in play, and sort of build up the hype for it. But I could see it going either way. I see both arguments.
Moving it to October was, a potential play for festivals. I think they kind of did want to get it out of the way of the general summer sequels and Dunkirk. Yeah.
Dunkirk.
Yeah, I think October makes sense. It also, if it presumably will do well at the box office to some degree, and ideally would have good legs or longevity. So I think December releases, I feel like it could get more lost with a December release, whereas October, it could be like a big box office sort of performance in October, where I feel like that's where a lot of indie awards fair sort of begins, and this could be akin to, I suppose, like The Martian, which its box office was a big factor in how it stayed in the awards conversation for those many months.
Oh, and then there's one other movie we forgot to mention that could have awards traction that could premiere at Venice, but I expect it like out of competition. The
It's
Leisure
on my
Seeker.
list, but
No.
I know, because it was rumored. Like,
I mean,
yeah, I could see that playing there, but it being like no one cares like sort of thing.
yeah, I
don't
think
know.
somebody on the forums mentioned it, like they're trying to pull like a Last Station with it. And I think that's,
I mentioned that.
Yeah, okay. That's actually exactly what it reminded me of. Like, sort of nobody actually really likes the movie, but it stars a couple of people that people really like, so there's just throw them an acting nomination. I think that's sort of best case scenario, and even that I think is probably going to be a reach. I mean, the Donald Sutherland angle is interesting, probably because he's, by most people's account, he's one of, if not probably, the most respected actor who hasn't gotten a nomination yet. So, I mean, there's obviously a narrative there, but I mean, if the movie is as mediocre as, frankly, I'm expecting it's going to be probably a very, very tough.
I think so too,
Tough
and I
campaign
think
to
we would
pull
have
off.
already seen
Yeah.
or felt some kind of activity from Sony, if to yeah, well,
apparently it was
it's
rejected
because-
from Cannes.
It's because it feels like
love
a
it.
Tuesday
I'd buy that.
afternoon senior discount movie. It just does.
Have they released
one.
any stills?
Yeah, one. When it was in
Yeah,
production.
there's only been
Wow.
one.
The same one, I think.
So yeah, I just
Is that Helen Mirren at the beach?
It's not. I just
I've
I
seen
think
that.
I feel like we would have gotten more at this point, but I don't know. Maybe they're just not very high on it. And it has that.
I mean,
sorry,
it's
it
kinda
has,
like,
the January 17th
so-
release date.
Right.
The qualifying
Well,
release date.
like Matt said, which is like what I said. So it reminded me of The Last Station because it's like this really late release, which is basically probably only an acting play. But I think the difference, well,
Or
I
is
don't
it
know.
still Alex?
Sutherland presumably is a lead actor, which I feel like is just always a harder scenario than supporting actor, which he got into. And Helen Mirren, I guess, in that year got into like a really open fifth spot. So I don't know. Like Matt said, I don't see the same thing being replicated, especially if the narrative is all about Sutherland and actor as a competitive field. Then no.
Yeah. And the other
Or
thing
is it-
That's
Or
what
is
I
it
was
like
just
another
gonna
Still
say.
Alice?
Maybe they're trying to do that.
Standing purposes.
But you know what? No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Sutherland's Canadian, so I mean, if they give it a big splashy premiere at Toronto and like they give him like a retrospective or something like that, and sort of just go all out with it, I mean, I can see it. But
Are you saying
go ahead,
the
sorry.
entirety? Are you saying the entirety of Awards Watch is going to harass distributors on Twitter? Well, it has a distributor, but going to harass campaign folks on Twitter to
I'm
launch
sure I
an
don't know what you're
aggressive,
talking about, but I did hear
campaign.
that the Leisure Seeker is full of
and
outstanding performances.
Yeah.
wow.
I had to jump on that before because I saw you coming, Richard. I saw you coming.
I said that.
Mm,
Literally.
mm,
But I mean,
yeah.
even The Last Station, I mean, if you think about it, like supporting actor that year was super weak too. I mean, you had Stanley Tucci make it in for The Lovely Bones somehow, and then you had Matt Damon get in for Invictus. So I mean, like it wasn't really a stacked race that year either. And same with Helen Mirren in actress. I mean, the acting races that year, especially in actress and supporting actor, were very thin. So they were able to, I think, get in mostly on their name alone and their release date. And I don't think Sutherland's going to be able to pull that off, the actor, or even Mirren an actress this year.
No, because at least
So-
the names that you mentioned had
Well-
some traction with other, industry, awards before getting to there. So it wasn't a complete shock, but it did feel very just boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Well, SPC, if you're listening, I have to say that The Leisure Seeker is the last station of 2017. That's all.
Or it's the
Just putting
Still
that out
Alice,
there.
and then they'll put Sutherland, in supporting and put him up ahead of Stuhlbarg.
Is Novitate SBC, the movie about the nuns that's like searching
Yes.
Whiplash?
And it's
Yeah,
really,
and they
really
gave
good.
that a really, really prime release date. So I'm wondering.
Deservingly. I hope it like emerges as like something more than just a low nominee for Melissa Leo. I really loved it. It literally is Whiplash with nuns. There's so many comparisons you could throw
What
out.
does that mean? What does that mean?
Okay,
That
it's
comparison
that
keeps getting thrown around. Is Melissa Leo? Does she scream vulgarities at someone?
Yes, and she's physically abusive.
And there's
Did she
music?
ask? Are they rushing or
nuns.
Where are the
dragging?
drummers?
The lead punishes
Is
herself.
Miles Teller there?
You know, like how like Miles Teller like sort of like punishes himself as he's like practicing. She does the same, like punishes herself when she needs
Who's
like
practicing
needs
what?
intimacy.
Practicing prayers?
When she's punishing herself for like
Oh my
touching
God.
herself.
What?
She, yeah, I know. She wants to
Spoil
like, get
it.
whipped by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
She wants to get
paddled,
whiplashed
not
by
paddled.
Oh my
paddles.
goodness. It is.
The regatta
I
gala.
wow, yeah. Melissa Leo dragging nuns. All right, I can live with that.
There's a whole single parent angle to it too.
You're making this sound like an
well,
awards watch
apparently,
wet
if
dream.
she's fingering herself, there will be that. So, wow, between this and Disobedience, it's gonna be just like Carol who? What? That's just really something.
Yeah. Wow. Kinsey scale.
It'll have a really great Bechdel score though. So.
I really hope it has like really good editing too. WTA.
Really good editing. Oh my god, the mind just reels now, Jason. I'm disturbed and intrigued.
Yeah.
Just her, Melissa Leo's performance in it.
You mean
is
it's a
so
Melissa Leo
unhinged and
performance?
rageful and over the top. Oh my god. I'm just so I'm like I did not like her at all in The Fighter, yet I
How do you
loved
not
her,
like her in
so
The
much in
Fighter?
Initiate. I was
Well,
an Amy
yes,
Adams
but,
fan
you know.
that year.
You got to back a winner, so yeah, you can.
We can love them both.
Well, Leo
You sound
won
so
for a
hesitant.
reason. I mean, it's
I think that was like one of my first years in the forum, and I just refused to predict Melissa Leo for anything. I was just predicting Amy Adams to
that's
take every word Melissa Leo
adorable.
took.
That's
Wow,
Well, now
that's stupid.
yes. So
I know it was like my first year.
no, there's
Photo Rush.
You know not to predict. Don't predict
Yeah.
Amy Adams to win.
yeah. I think that is
in
a
general,
good
I think, right?
yeah.
Or
ouch,
apparently
but
get
yes.
nominated anymore.
Too soon.
Sorry. As a side note, I would just say that her snub for Arrival, actually, just objectively speaking, was one of the most bizarre snubs that I've seen since kind of watching
It was
like
it
Oscar
was
nominations.
major.
Sort of.
Yeah, it made no sense. 'Cause Arrival got in everywhere else. Like it could
That's
have,
the
like,
thing. It basically maxed out on nominations. It would have probably even gotten a score nomination if eligible. She was like the only place that it was snubbed in favor of an unknown and an even more subtle performance in a movie that
Yes.
got no other nominations.
Yeah.
So I was
It
like,
would have
what?
if it stayed in the screenplay category it was originally intended to be. It probably would have. It screwed.
Would have won.
Would have gotten a screenplay nomination as well. Because
What,
remember,
wait,
Switch
what would have?
Loving? Because
Yeah.
wasn't it? It
Oh.
was originally original.
I
Would
thought
have
you were
gotten
saying
in over 20th
Arrival.
Century Woman. So Loving would have ended up with 2 nominations because WGA. don't
Maybe,
forget.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
Maybe.
20th Century Woman missed the WGA. I think Loving was ahead, especially if Ruth.
Well,
got a
and
nomination.
you know, to be as
In it.
careful about this as possible, I think Ruth Negga benefited from a tremendous amount of that influx of new members. Her category would have been the only category to not have, be all white if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Ruth in the movie, but I mean, it was such a quiet and subtle performance, especially when the film got in nowhere else. It was.
I didn't mind the subtlety
a
of her
significant
performance. I thought
surprise.
it was
I mean-
great, and it was nice. It's always great to have a
yeah, I thought
category that
she was
has
fantastic.
that
Yeah.
balance. When you can have the fantastic insanity of Isabelle Huppert, and then the total understated, almost quiet nothing of Mega. Yeah.
I mean, Adams was that too, kind of. Like, neither of them had Oscar clips, basically. So it's just it was surprising, but it was like kind of a funny moment, especially in light of certain fervent awards watch members who seem to dismiss certain contenders and prop
That's
up
weird
others.
how that happens.
Just saying that, weird how Amy Adams could not miss a
Weird.
nomination last year. But
NBR
she
curse exists.
Okay, so yeah,
Anyway.
Venice, where Arrival was actually.
Yeah.
Are there any other things
There we
that
go,
maybe
segue.
we could see? What about like Last Flag Flying? Are we gonna? What's Amazon?
No, it's already
Oh, that's
confirmed
enough.
for a world premiere at
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then what are we gonna see from Amazon there? Anything? Are they gonna stack themselves with U.S. premieres?
They have the Gus Van Sant. Who knows if that will come out this year?
Okay.
It's been in post for a while. But yeah, is there
Like I
anything
said,
else
they
from Amazon?
have a lot, but I'm just.
Well, I mean,
Oh, duh, yes. The other one.
Oh yeah, Suspiria,
the remake.
which has
Spirit, yeah. That will be in Venice.
Yeah, I could see that as long as it's ready. I mean,
yeah.
Apparently, they submitted a cut to Sony
Yeah.
Classics recently. Or not Sony Classics, Amazon.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how much damage that'll do in the award race, but if it's well reviewed, I mean, it could at the very least help Luca with Call Me by Your Name. Have two really well received
It
movies.
seems
out
like
the same
that's kind
year.
of a thing
Yeah.
now to do. Oh,
We call that
wow.
Alicia Vicandering it.
That was uncalled for. That was uncalled
I'm
for.
sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we have Amazon films that have already, premiered in theaters, so it's maybe they won't have a huge festival presence. You were never really here, Mike.
Yeah, and I wonder I don't know if that's gonna have a new cut when it hits the fall festivals, because I know it wasn't like 100% finished. I read when I played at Cannes, like there were some slight adjustments that I heard were going to be made just because Ramsey was rushing to finish it. So I don't know if we're going to see a new cut at sort of when it plays at the fall.
Yeah,
festival,
it wasn't even finished
but I
while
mean-
the festival was going on.
Yeah.
And they had to do reshoots like after it was
Yeah,
announced.
I mean, didn't
Premiere there?
it premiere and it was like 80 minutes or 83 minutes long? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really short.
Yeah. I kind of expect it to be like released the last week of December.
Ooh.
Sort of like
That's
Patterson.
an unfortunate example. It's not too promising. Okay, well then maybe we can move over to New York. At least we do.
Please do.
And that is the end of September to mid-October. And at least as of right now, we do have one bit of information, and that's the centerpiece film is Wonderstruck. So.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Last Flag Flying as
Yes, that's
established.
right.
And with Wonderstruck, I had read that a lot of the New York Film Festival committee members who were at Cannes, a lot of them were really big fans of it. So I really think they're trying to revive it because they seem to indicate that they thought it really got an unfair shake at Cannes. So I think they're giving it a big showcase to try and revive it heading into the fall award season. We'll see if that works.
So
Sort of,
It
but
can-
then you also Amazon also has another emotional crowd pleaser, The Big Sick, which is going to have better critical reception and make more money than
Yeah,
Wonderstruck. So it's like just going to totally overshadow it.
Well, The Big Sick is going to go into, I think, 2,500 theaters this weekend, I read. So I'm very curious to see how that does because that's a really aggressive push
It
by
is,
Amazon.
and that's
So
going
I'll
up
be curious
against,
to see how
like,
that fares.
Yeah.
the Planet of the Apes movie, and then you've got Dunkirk the next week. So it's really good counter programming for the summer. But yeah, I'll be super curious to see how that pans out.
Yeah, because I've been hesitant on predicting it, but if it really breaks out, then I think I'm gonna start taking it a little more seriously.
Yeah, I was originally thinking like it was going to be like another 500 days of summer, but now if it like reaches like the domestic gross heights of like Little Miss Sunshine, it's going to actually be in the conversation the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Didn't Little Miss Sunshine make like, was it like 80 million or 70?
I think far less. Wasn't it like 50?
50?
Domestic
Oh, okay.
and like worldwide, it made closer to what you're.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if Big Sick approaches 50, then I would. Yeah, Little Miss Sunshine made 59. You're right. But if Big Sick approaches 50, then it's definitely a contender in several categories. But as far as Amazon goes, I feel like Wonderstruck to me strikes me more as like a tech contender, and then some of their others are like more above the line contenders, like Last Flag and Big Sick. And I'm not very kind of optimistic of Wonderstruck getting into, except for Screenplay, I suppose, because there's nothing in adapted.
God.
But I mean,
Yeah,
other than that,
this year.
I don't see it.
The disparity between original and adapted this year, it's as on paper at least, it's as bad as I've seen it. I mean, like, I wonder if we're gonna see a couple sort of original try to switch over.
And that's what I said in the forums.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know, it might do well for some of these awards consultants to try and finagle this as well as possible, because it's original is just way overstuffed, and adapted is bleak at best.
Like maybe Darkest Hour can find some technicality like Loving did. I forgot
Loving
what
was
Loving
because
is
of the
technicality.
documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Breathe is another one that I could see and try and sort of finagle its way into adapted, just because those biopics sometimes they have some sort of thing you can find that's sort of
look,
inspired by
the
it.
papers,
So,
exactly.
Well, the paper seemed like another one that could possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many things I feel like you could attribute to some aspect of the
The thing is,
screenplay.
it has to be something specific, and not just, you know, oh, I read a bunch of newspaper articles and watched, you know, footage. It has to be pretty specific.
Yeah, but someone could finagle it, because certain things like Roman Israel, Get Out, Big Sick, those are not able to be moved. So it comes down to the more historical things, I think, like Papers, Darkest Hour, like we said, and Breathe, maybe. So perhaps otherwise
it is, and
will just be a bloodbath.
in terms of, you know, predicting, it's going to be really fun, because the snubs that are going to happen there are going to be really brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's made me consider, could Darkest Hour miss? Which earlier in the year I was like, oh, that's such an easy nomination. It's going to be Gary Oldman with a bunch of like really crazy monologues. But now I have it like fourth, I think, and I'm like,
Yeah, it dropped
well,
in Gold Rush game polls too. Now it's in for 5.
I have Darkest Hour.
Where do you have it? Did you say eighth? Oh my god!
In adapted, you have sort of Call Me by Your Name, Last Flag, Flying, and then maybe like Wonderstruck and Lean on Pete, and those, and even like Lean on Pete, we're not really sure right now, right? And Wonderstruck, we don't know how that's even. You have to wait for the reception, how it pans out the rest of the way. So really, Call Me by Your Name and
Wonderstruck, a lot of it's silent too. So
yeah, that's the weird thing. Wonderstruck doesn't even have a lot of dialogue, but it still feels like it's one of the stronger contenders because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And
Mudbound, maybe, which
it
will
has
probably
pedigree.
show up in New York Film Festival too.
Yeah, I have Mudbound third. I mean, it actually has really good reviews.
I see
it will be released in, when is it released? October?
No, there's no date.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm sure it will be like October or November. So I feel like people could see it. Obviously, people have issues or questions about Netflix, but again, compared to some of the contenders here, I feel like it can definitely happen.
I think if it gets in anywhere, it's there. I mean, just because of how thin that field is.
I was gonna say this category could be really beneficial for something that is not, you know, a top end Best Picture nominee. If Disobedience gets picked up, this is a great place that it could show up. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
or Annihilation.
What about like the Beguiled?
I don't think the Beguiled.
No, that's gone. Death of Stalin.
Yeah, Death of Stalin.
Death of Stalin from IFC, which is the loop,
Yeah.
That's one.
like an in the loop
Right.
nomination.
Yeah, I could see something like that. Or kind of like last year with
Yeah,
what was
Lobster.
the Lanthimos, right? Yeah, the Lobster. Something like that, like a very inspired nomination because there's like a vacancy, you know.
The
With
best
no other
you can do with
nomination.
that is the
Interestingly,
disaster
I
artist.
mean, Killing the
maybe.
Sacred Deer is, on our list in original, but there might be a cause for it to get into adapted. I'm trying to now remember. Oh my god!
Oh, you're talking.
Killing a
Which
Sacred
movie?
Deer.
The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yo, because it's like inspired
Yes.
by Greek,
Yeah, so
some Greek mythology.
You're gonna cite someone who wasn't real.
No, I mean from
I'm just kidding. I'm sure
yeah, it
there's
would
a
be,
way
like,
to
existing
do it.
text.
But I mean,
It
Killing of a Sacred Deer is one that could be divisive in the Academy, but could get a lot of number one votes from people who are really passionate about it. Because I feel like it's sort of, at least within the Academy, I could see it be a love it or hate it movie, sort of probably like The Lobster was. So I mean, if it's able to finagle its way and adapt it, I could see sort of a path where it could get enough number one votes to sneak in there.
Okay, so you're saying like the not the I keep thinking the Lobster.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Why do I keep forgetting the title?
Sacred Deer.
Deer, sort of would be like, oh brother, where art thou? Which was like, wasn't that inspired
What?
by Homer's Odyssey?
Homer's Odyssey. Yeah.
Wasn't that inspired by like Homer's Odyssey?
Oh, you're talking
Yeah.
about
And that was adapted.
Yeah, no,
And that was adapted
I think
because
it's
of that.
totally possible.
You're thinking
Yeah,
it will pull like one of those tricks.
it's
Okay.
Just cite Zeus or something.
what the fuck?
Did he know how to write?
Yes, with a lightning bolt or something. Yeah, here we go. It's now see it's
Okay.
yeah, Iphigenia, but it's I don't know. Lots of versions. If you myth, the basic version starts with Greek letter Agamemnon, Artemis. It's possible, but it would be a reach. And it's it's not listed in IMDb as any type of anything other than original, but still.
It's interesting though to just for a second like think about this conversation and do you think there are people at this point who are already examing
If they are
sort of
good
this
awards
as we are?
consultants, that's they better be,
Like campaign strategists.
Yeah.
because
That's what I'd be trying to do. I mean, if I had a fringe contender and I'm looking at the field, I'm going, I have original screenplay, I have something that might be able to switch over to adapted. I'm like doing my research. I'm like going to the biggest library possible to try and find anything that can that I can make happen, in this category. Just because the disparity on paper is just insane. Like I look at original and I see like there's 15 at least I would say legitimate contenders that have the potential to be strong enough to make it in any given year. But I mean, the conversation whittles down when you enter into December that like you're going to have movies that have critical acclaim, high profile names behind them just sort of get left in the dust just because there's so many of them. So
I feel like awards consultants don't care about the screenplay placements. They only care about the acting placements. You never hear of like Moonlight last year could have always been switched to adapted. They had 20th Century Woman and The Lobster all in original on their for your consideration site.
Right, but
They never tried, their awards consultant never tried to switch Moonlight to adapted. The Academy did that on their own.
yeah. Well, the Academy has such specific rules in terms of screenplay eligibility that differ from all the other, awards groups. So it's, I don't really know the specific details about what differs in terms of that. But obviously we saw it this past year with, Loving and Moonlight being switched over. Even though they were in original at sort of WGA, BAFTA, etc. So
well,
I mean,
what somebody should have done is
yeah.
is what like happened to Hidden Figures, which is inadapted, but the book wasn't even finished when the film started. So it was, and that still got nominated. I don't know. If I was somebody, I would be like finding a ghostwriter to write something and like stick it in the archives and say, "Oh, look, we found this. It's adapted."
Was Foxcatcher original or adapted?
Was
Because I
which?
know it was unpublished. I'm just curious.
I think it ended up an original.
Okay, original. Okay, yeah, because it was technically adapted. Just the source material was never published, and they never switched that like Moonlight.
Yeah, exactly. Was always the weird thing about Moonlight is that it didn't seem to fall under the guidelines of previously published material. So.
But I thought
It
McCraney's
wasn't.
play was not published.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's what I'm
Wasn't.
saying. Just
Yeah.
like Foxcatcher, there was an autobiography that was not published that they adapted it from.
Yeah, because isn't the official name of the category
Yes.
like material based on previously published,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
something like that, right? So it's it seems kind of arbitrary, but a little bit, or I don't know about arbitrary, but yeah, they make odd decisions like Moonlight, versus Foxcatcher. What's the difference there?
I don't know
So
either.
I don't know. One of the last festival things I guess I wanted to mention, which I noticed has been, I guess, ticking
Mhm.
upward a little bit, is The Shape of Water. So, as a potential, presumably it will play at some sort of fall festival, and I guess I've seen people in the forum starting to debate where it might go, and then I was looking at the.
I've heard whispers they want it at Telluride.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they want it.
Yeah, so I don't recall really like Del Toro's previous what festival does he have the most connection to? Do you know?
Pan's Labyrinth closed New York Film Festival,
Mm-hmm.
so it'll probably be in that lineup somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's ever been to Telluride, but Fox Searchlight could bring it.
Mhm.
So maybe it could premiere in competition at Venice, or just start off at Telluride, Toronto. Oh, he has some history with Toronto. I forget. Cricket in the forums was mentioning it.
I mean, Del Toro does do a lot of master classes with TIFF.
Yeah, that.
He sort of does like old movie screenings here where he comes in Toronto sort of and talks about the films he loves afterwards. So, like, I don't think they'll premiere it at Toronto if it's a serious, contender. I think they'll probably go Telluride first in Toronto. Because I think there is a bit of a stigma with world premiering at Toronto first, because you world premiere at Toronto first, the popular belief is that you were denied by Telluride, and most of the time that's the truth. So, I mean, I love TIFF. I go every year, but I mean, if it's a world premiere at Toronto, I'm always uncertain about the quality of the film.
Especially if it's Sony Pictures
Oh.
Classics.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I just remember I saw the light in that Kate Blanchett movie.
Well, I saw
Is
the
that more
That's what
still
I thought.
Alice shade?
and so yeah.
Oh, that was before Sony picked it up.
Yeah,
It was pre-shade.
but yeah, and I've noticed like in the Gold Rush game predictions, it seems like a few people are predicting it like really high, and then some people are not predicting it at all. So there's kind of like, it seems an emerging maybe confidence to some degree in the movie, and I feel sort of mixed myself. It feels actually like it could be, and I know Jason mentioned this on the forums, like potentially a big kind of maybe awards breakout for or Oscar breakout for Del Toro. I feel like a lot of the things we know about the film on paper, like the crew members and the cast members and a lot of the talent and the subject matter, I'm not entirely clear actually what it's about, but the setting, I mean, it's American in the 60s,
Cold
right?
War.
Civil War. So yeah. Sorry, Cold War. Okay. Wrong war. But yeah, so
My
it
confidence,
feels
oh,
it
sorry.
feels it could do well.
My confidence in it is it's open to like literally
Yeah.
every category, including the text. Like you can put it, except
Right.
for best actor, you can put it in supporting, lead actress, director.
Octavia
I
coming
have-
for nomination number 3.
I have it all over
Des
the place
Platt's doing the
but
score.
pretty low key, except for Octavia Spencer. I think I have her at 4 or 5.
Yeah,
And Del Toro has a critically acclaimed film, another one probably in him after Pan's Labyrinth, which got like a 96 back when Metacritic wasn't so
Or when
inflated.
people could just simply email them
and
and
this
have them
sounds like
change
his
their
most
votes.
sort of like
I did that, I think, with Pan's Labyrinth. I made them add Roger Ebert's review.
And now he's dead. Good
he
job,
didn't review
Jason.
it, but he had it in his great movies.
I mean,
Oh my
it
God,
sounds like Del Toro's most like sort of emotional, ambitious movie since Pan's Labyrinth, and it definitely sounds like something that has, you know, if it really takes off, it sounds like it's something that could have the emotional heft and weight to sort of launch itself as a top contender, and it definitely has, you know, a lot of, you know, respected actors, actresses in it, and I think even though
I was
Del
gonna say
Toro
Anne
hasn't
Sally
Sally Hawkins.
yeah.
Eric's.
And that first still release had
Eric.
Michael Shannon.
I think I
Eric,
have. I
predict
think
her.
I have her.
Predict her.
Oh, I don't. Yes, I do. 10. I have her in 10th. See, I'm not.
But I mean, even though Del Toro hasn't worked too much in sort of like the awards sphere, I think he's really respected because, you know, he has a large sort of knowledge of film. He's a big cinephile, and I think sort of the international directors will really respond to his work and everything
Super
like that.
likable too.
Yeah, and he's likable because you know, I'm not the biggest fan of him as a director, but I went to one of those master classes he did, and he's such sort of a likable, just down to earth guy, really humble, and it really made me respect him a lot more, even if I'm not the biggest fan of his work. So I think he would be really good at sort of working a room. I think he's really got that sort of charming, sort of down to earth, humble. Like he just seems like a really lovable guy. So I think that could help him a lot too.
Go ahead, Richard.
And he's so yeah. Go. I was gonna say no, and he's so established that with the right distributor and subject matter and film like critic reviews, I feel like it could easily become
Well, I mean, it's Fox Searchlight,
like a big
who's
thing.
definitely going to be looking for a comeback after their disaster last year.
Well, yeah, last year is like the only year in almost a decade or something
No,
that they
I mean,
didn't
they
have a
won,
Best
like,
Picture
twice
nominee.
and-
So
I mean,
really.
really.
Shame on Natalie Portman, but
And I think Three Billboards is going to be really good, but I'm just very skeptical of it as a whole, especially how many categories
2.
it can even be
Like-
play in.
It
2.
seems a little quirky.
Versus Shape of Water, which could in the end, if it actually lives up to its potential, be like one of the highest
I
nominations.
wanted to jump on what
the
Matt
Oscars.
said about,
Right, exactly,
about Del
yeah.
Toro's international presence. I think he could be the director that benefits the most from the influx of international voters that are now in the directing branch of the Academy. I could see them coalescing around him even more than Luca.
And the other thing is that him, Cuarón, and Iñárritu, they're sort of seen as like the three amigos is sort of their nickname. And obviously the other two have Oscars, so I mean, like,
Yeah, I know.
if that
Just
sort of
Del Toro.
narrative, that sort of narrative builds itself, then you sort of have the three of them all
That's-
having
that's
sort
a
of
good
Oscars,
point.
and that'd be sort of a nice story.
Yeah. See,
So-
I mean, like I said, it's
Yeah.
like across the board on like my low key 7, 8, 9s and 10s, but I can see it just moving up and up and up pretty easily.
Yeah, because I don't think Goodbye Christopher
Oh my
Robin is going to
God.
be Fox Searchlight ticket. Like I think that movie's going to play well to the let's say the senior citizens at TIFF.
If they don't get into the
but
leisure
critically,
seeker, yeah.
I don't think that's going to cut it. Yeah, I don't think that's going to cut it. Yeah, it's true. But what else do they have? They have, I think, Three Billboards, and I think is that it maybe?
Battle of the Sexes.
And you know what? I think Battle of the Sexes is actually going to be good. I think I have Emma Stone sort of low in my rank. It's like I don't think it's going to be huge, but I could see Stone being a surprise contender just based on sort of Afterglow, and apparently they're taking it to Telluride, which indicates a lot.
I've heard the opposite, but we'll see.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll see. I have it low-ish, but I mean, I've seen the trailer a couple times before, sort of movies lately, and it's gotten a big
Well,
reaction. So I could even see it be a bit of
yeah.
a breakout.
There's
Actually, yeah, I
two
think it
trailers
looks
for it, and they're
surprisingly
clearly
good.
trying
Yeah.
to kind of cover their bases because one is more comedic and one is more dramatic, and I think they're trying to show that it's not totally one or the other, or they're just like really scattered on how they want to market it.
And I think somebody mentioned in the forums, but it might have been actually Richard again, but the John McEnroe comments about Serena Williams, I think lately, he mentioned, I wonder if Fox Searchlight's going to bring that up subtly in the campaign trail about that, because that was interesting, what he said, because obviously that has a lot of relevance to the story.
Messy. I don't know what he was thinking.
It was messy, but I mean, But I mean, with Battle of the Sexes, I mean, I think you have, Stone's obviously very likable, and Carell, even if I think sometimes he can turn into a ham of an actor, frequently, he's in a bit of a career sweet spot right now. I'd say, he's signed up for a lot of more daring projects that have sort of attempted to expand his range, and he's really, really likable. Him and Stone are two of the most likable people in the industry, I'd say, in terms of what I've heard. So I mean, I could see the two of them emerge as stealth contenders, especially at like SAG if certain things sort of screen late, and even at the Globes too, especially if they go comedy. I would say those are two easy nominations for Carell and Stone.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's September, so it makes me think it's like a lesser contender, but they're not dismissing it totally, like that Jean-Marc Bellier movie Demolition, which they just bumped to March. So it makes me think they think they can get something out of it both commercially and with awards.
Yeah, I mean, at the least, I could see it as a commercial and a Globes play, at the least. So I think it's worth at least keeping in mind, if not seriously sort of predicting it.
Probably something like in the 60s on Metacritic, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it'll play well. Like it does get
with audiences. It looks like a good crowd pleasing.
Yeah, I think it'll play well at like Toronto if it plays there. I think it'll get a big reaction there. And
well, that's right. It's Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Faris too. Speaking of Little Miss Sunshine. Yeah.
And look who wrote it.
Wow. Yeah. There is potential there. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it will be a little more stealth than we think it is.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if it could be an screenplay, but no.
That would be pretty funny. Yes,
it's original.
It is.
It's original.
Okay. Well, what is there anything else we can pull from possibilities at New York? Or are we going to end up seeing a lot of the same things? Because, I mean, that happens every year, too, is that we just get sort of inundated with a few titles that hit absolutely everywhere.
I think it's probably safe to say the PTA movie won't be ready in time for New York.
Will it be ready this year?
That's true. That's the biggest question I'd say, is that because, I mean, obviously there's a big potential campaign push if this really is Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie. I mean, I don't know how much of an impact.
He's not winning.
I mean, I still think Oldman is the front runner just because he has sort of all the ingredients is there. And I think probably if anybody is a stealth contender and actor, it's probably who's his biggest competition. It's probably Denzel.
If
just
that
because
comes
it looks
out.
like
correct.
Yeah, it looks like he's sort of. Yeah, that's
it
true.
will.
Yeah.
It said
Yes,
in
but
deadline
until it's a date, I'm not.
But
I'm
Sony
not doing
is such a
anything
mess
with it.
right now. Sony is such a mess right now.
Okay, but The Papers is
but
coming
it
out
has
this
a
year.
date.
It just started filming.
So I'm.
What about?
So what?
What about
December
Clint Eastwood,
2017? Now it has a date.
Clint Eastwood's trying to get it out this year, isn't he? Like he's trying to get that movie cast like all like real
According
life
to Jeff
people in.
Wells.
Yeah,
I
don't
can't
know.
even. I cannot with the Clint Eastwood thing. I can't.
It felt like a publicity stunt when I read that. I was like, "This."
Did you read the new thing today?
So like.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm referring to.
yes.
That's what I mean.
To me, that is a pure red state ploy, and nothing more.
Yeah.
Instead of dealing with like contracts and who will get what money, they just casted the real people just to get it filming and released.
Yeah.
But how can you trust
Like,
the real person to act on camera? I don't, doesn't that seem dangerous?
Yeah, and the other thing is Clint doesn't do more than 2 takes. How are you going to get like a non-professional actor to be able to do what he wants in 1 or 2 takes? Like he
didn't even give a
impossible.
shit about the fake baby in American Sniper. So
that's yeah.
I love
They
this
should
guy.
bring David.
that
Fincher
I
on
was
board to put
literally
them all on
just going to
Suicide
say
Watch.
at least David Fincher isn't directing this. Yeah,
He'd walk off the set
that
after
movie
2
would never
hours.
come out. But it is weird that Warner has, Dunkirk and Blade Runner, and then announced this too. It was just like, are you hedging your bets? Are you scared that your blockbusters are gonna fail?
Uh,
Yeah, there's some. It's weird.
I think they are.
I'm very skeptical about Dunkirk right now because the social media embargo lifted, and all I was seeing, and I think Jason mentioned this, and I think he's right. All I've been really seeing is how sort of glorious it is in IMAX 70 millimeter. Nobody's actually saying what
the
film is
negative
like.
comments was
So,
like,
that
the one
because
tweet
it's
that, like,
an ensemble that everybody's pretty indistinguishable from each other, which has been a pretty big negative.
Yeah.
In terms of everything else that's been positive that's come out of it.
And that's what I feared when you have such like a sprawling ensemble and you have like so many things going on. Like he's basically focusing like on the land, in the air, in the sea. Like if you're cross-cutting between
That's
those
the slogan.
Well,
if you're cross-cutting between those three things, I mean, it's impossible to really have any sort of emotion or get invested in any of the characters. So I think in terms of a technical achievement, it could be well received along those lines. But I don't think it's going to be like as emotional as people want it to be. And I think that's the one.
yeah, passion is key, and that's why
Yeah.
Sully failed last year.
So, I mean,
Like,
I'm very
yeah.
skeptical about Dunkirk for now. I've had it really high for a while just because I felt like it was like, okay, the internet's sort of going on and on about Nolan. You know, finally the Academy's just going to eventually cave in and give it to him. But right now, I'm very skeptical. So I'm waiting for official reviews.
Yeah,
That
I
happens
have
every
it
year.
lowballed, very
Yeah.
lowballed, because
But-
I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I'm just
No.
wondering why
No.
you're not predicting Nolan. No,
No.
why?
I
Just
don't
because you don't
believe in
believe in
him.
the
I don't
film, or-
believe I this feels like a ploy, and I think it will be really transparent that it is. Yes,
A ploy
Yeah.
to get nominated?
and it's
Well,
But-
I'm not predicting Nolan, and I never have, not because I think it's a ploy, but because I think that he has a history of being ignored, and so I get that now he's doing a World War II film, but I kind of was always in the mindset of I'm gonna wait to predict him until I see what needs to be there, which is really good reviews and box office. And
it's
I'm not
just really
convinced
strange to me
that's
that he
gonna
chose
happen.
this film, which could and should have a much bigger and more epic scope to it, to be like his shortest film. I think that is like part of some of the
Yeah.
disconnection, not just
Well-
because you're like, wait, which white guy is this? Is this one? Is that Harry Styles?
I think
But-
part of that was him responding to the criticisms behind Interstellar and Dark Knight Rises, because those two movies, the biggest criticisms behind them were they were too bloated and they were too long and too many things were going on. So I think he tried to be really sort of tight and efficient with this movie. But if it's a big change for him in terms of style and tone, which is the one thing I've heard is, I think one said that, I saw one tweet that said that was it was a very different Nolan movie. Maybe he tried to do something too different and lost his sort
And
of style.
It was
Just-
filmed entirely in IMAX too, right?
Yeah.
That's
That
really-
seems like sort of a
he's
gimmick to me. I hate to say it.
that.
Like I
He-
love sort of the IMAX
Yeah.
cameras. I love sort of the scope of that, but it just seems like it's a gimmick to try and make up for maybe a lack of, I don't know, interest in the
that's
storytelling
what
itself.
This,
like I don't know.
this seems like it's
Yeah,
told
like,
on
is
three
he-
different timelines, and each of them are obviously not going to be getting the devotion of time that they need. If ever there was a movie or an idea that could have used 2 hours and 15 minutes or 30 even, it would probably be this, and then you would have more
Yeah.
passion and attachment to characters.
Yeah, I don't know if there is like that level of respect there from the director's branch.
I don't either.
recognize him. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
again, we're saying things like this seems gimmicky. Like, is it a personal movie? Is it, I feel like a lot of the questions that we're considering, other people in the industry might also, or other directors might also be thinking. So, yeah, I don't know.
Also-
It's gonna need really good reviews, I think, for him to have a chance. If it's not, if it's like below 80 Metacritic,
Mhm.
I would continue to not predict him
Yeah, I
as
agree.
a rough estimate. And I don't think it will be above that. It sounds like the social media, the tweets, they don't even sound that amazing. Like, I feel like when we get these early reactions, they tend to be really enthusiastic. Remember Les Mis or basically anything that plays at any festival. So for even the early tweets to be like, it was really good,
I expect
then the critics, I'm like, damn, they're going to have their knives ready.
Yeah.
One alarming thing.
Okay, I'm going to name call, but Chris Tapley seems very anti-Dunkirk. I sort of wonder if he's seen it already.
I think a lot of people already
Jason
come into a Christopher Nolan movie with a tremendous amount of opinions. I mean, almost any of us do, positive or negative. I mean, he will have fanboys that are going to be behind him no matter what, and he'll have people that will be more hesitant and pessimistic.
That's the thing. There's a lot of baggage just attached to his name, right? And attached to sort of what he represents and sort of not just fandom culture, but sort of the movies he's made. And look, his Batman movies, I thought the Dark Knight and Batman Begins were really good, and I didn't like Dark Knight Rises as much. But when you make 3 superhero movies, I wonder if there's some snobby members of the director's branch who are sort of like, oh, this guy's done, superhero movies, so I'm not going to take him seriously. Whether that's justified or not, you have a lot of international directors, and if they see him sort of just going for those big budget sort of fanboy culture type movies, I wonder if there's a certain devaluation that happens there. And
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Oh, maybe it's.
Oh my God! Let me write that one down because that's an upcoming headline. Goodness.
Yep. That's thank you. Yeah, but it'll get tech nominations,
and
even Interstellar did. So
yeah, that's definitely possible. I think you have a bit of a point, Matt, with Nolan's superhero movie history and sci-fi, and I think a lot of times people weirdly try and connect him to Steven Spielberg, but it's not really quite the same because Spielberg was actually able to get nominations for his genre films.
Yeah, I just don't think he has the respect of Spielberg, at least in the industry yet. I just don't think, because he hasn't shown sort of, I would say, the diverse range that Spielberg has. And I think even Spielberg went through a period initially in his early career because he was snubbed for Jaws really early in his career. And there's a really funny video on YouTube that shows the reaction to it. I don't know if that was like planned or not, but it was quite funny. And he had to sort of overcome sort of that wonderkind thing where it was sort of like this typed young director, and he had to sort of prove his worth, and he eventually got there. And at least in terms of industry, I'm not sure if Nolan's viewed that way yet. I mean, I think in terms of cinephiles and film fans, he is for the most part, but I just haven't seen sort of the industry acknowledgement of him like I thought I would have by this point. I just don't hear other directors, too many of them, talk about him in sort of in fatuous terms, is typical of directors that have that sort of clout otherwise. So, I don't know. The Nolan thing is a big question mark to me because I haven't really ever got a sense of how he's actually viewed by the industry. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the industry is not IMDb, let's be real. Yeah. So, he's not, I totally agree. It's what I said before. I don't feel the respect is there unless it's like an undeniable
Well, I mean, it's pretty, the opinion of the industry on him is pretty clear, and it's, we don't care.
But I think Dunkirk, just based on its plot and its sort of tone and the heft of the story, at least, regardless of what the film actually portrays, how the film portrays the tone of it, I think it's his most transparent attempt to shake that sort of genre-ish fanboy culture thing off. You know what I mean? It just seems like his most the story with the most potential, at least, to be emotional, to have weight, to have. Just because it's based on a true story, it's based on something significant, a significant chapter.
It's kind of like he went from 0
except
to 60,
in an effort to make a more accessible film, he's still totally focused on the IMAX 70mm element of it over characters. So he hasn't really changed at all. This is sight unseen, so I'm not.
He did put a lot of
Yes.
math. Did you see the quote
Oh my
about
God.
all the math and science
Oh
that
my
went
God.
into it? So he thought about it.
Jeez.
He directed his ass
Yeah,
off.
I saw that.
So.
But I will say this: if Dunkirk is well reviewed, it gets a ton of nominations, and Nolan gets all the precursors and misses again, the internet is literally going to implode. Like it's going to be like
I'm
fanboy
here for that.
meltdown, like central. Like it's going to be. Oh, it'll be fun if it happens for sure. Because
Oh my
Too bad that
God, no
IMDb message
kidding.
boards are gone.
he has
Yeah.
3 DGA nominations, and he's never been nominated, which is just sort of insane. Memento, The Dark Knight,
Yep.
and Inception. He was snubbed all 3 times. I mean, like I'm not a big Nolan fan, but that's just pretty crazy to have 3 DGA nominations and not convert any of them. Because usually it's like 4 to 5 of the DGA
Yeah.
nominees on average get in, if not 5. So I mean, like to be snubbed all 3 times, that's pretty significant, and it does show pushback to him. I think, at least within the director's branch, because like. Clearly, they don't care what the internet thinks about him being overdue or snubbed or whatever, So because they would have nominated for him for Inception, Inception was the perfect opportunity to make up for quote unquote past mistakes, and they didn't bite. So I mean,
DGA goes for more blockbuster types, so I don't.
true,
really
but I
buy
mean,
that.
can you name many directors who were nominated 3 times at DGA and never got Oscar nominations? That
Ridley
list,
Scott, maybe? I don't know. I know he could Black Hawk Down.
but
It
I
would
mean,
be
that
kind
list
of
can't
great
be
for
too
him to
long,
get Color Purple.
Is all I'm saying.
I think
So,
it would be hilarious. I'd be okay with it. Sorry, Nolan fanboys. I just don't care. Yeah, it would be.
It would be entertaining, that's for sure.
I mean, looking at our predictions though, he's at number 3 on our list.
Yeah, I still have him. I
And
haven't
Jason,
moved him,
you have
and
him
I'm
at
gonna
number
wait
1, but I
for
can see you
reviews
changing
to
him
move
right now.
Just-
Just gonna
Wow.
call that real quick. Well, he's not
Why
now.
is he number
now
1?
Dan
I don't get
Gilroy
it.
is. Oh. Yeah.
Why was he 10 seconds ago?
Oh, I'm not really confident about anyone in this lineup.
I mean, that's valid, but Christopher Nolan, why should he ever be number 1?
I mean, there's a clear bias towards World War II movies that you can't ignore. So I thought maybe he's like safest.
Well, that should be counteracted by the
Mhm.
Academy's distaste for Christopher Nolan. But
I don't
Like-
buy that, but okay.
Matt just described how he's got 3
if you go
DGA
through each of them,
nominations.
There was no Nolan bias existing when he got nominated for Memento. Dark Knight was like a superhero movie. Inception, I feel like was
Well, I'm
explainable.
actually
He was
going to
always
lower
borderline
my
there.
Nolan prediction
But
right
I mean,
now
like,
as we're talking because he's down to 9, and Del Toro and Peele are moving up.
But I mean,
Oh
like,
my goodness. But we just described like the reasons why I feel like there is
Well, I
an
disagree.
uphill climb for him. But what about all the stuff we just said? So you
I
feel
mean-
like other directors actually respect him on par with, like, I don't know, Haneke and whoever else?
There's also
doesn't
new
make-
membership.
but I mean,
So
think
all
about
these new women joining
With
the
the-
directing
with
branch
no
over
women.
Christopher Nolan?
Why not?
think about who beat him out for The Dark Knight, though. Steven, was it the guy who directed the Reader? What's his name? Daldry. Steven
directing-
Daldry
Yes, but
beat
that
him
was
out
the,
for a director
Holocaust.
nomination.
that was the final
And the Reader got
throes
shit
of the
Weinstein.
Weinstein insurgency.
I know, but I mean, I know like The Reader was like super Oscar bait, and I know Dark Knight was still perceived as a superhero movie. But if Nolan couldn't get in over Stephen Daldry for a movie that like got mixed reviews at best, like maybe there just isn't the respect
Yeah,
there
and
that people think there is in the industry for him.
Academy's director's branch bites Oscar bait. Imitation Game.
Right, but again with
That's
the what was I gonna say? So what's his name? Morton Tildum.
Mm-mm.
There was no negative, I guess, bias against him. He just was on like a neutral slate or a neutral playing field. So yeah, they bit for this very Oscar baity World War II film, and I don't think also Stephen Daldry, I mean, he's whatever he is, but I suppose there's not, some kind of, it's possible that people think of, in the director's branch, of Chris Nolan as, lesser than Stephen Daldry, apparently, because, he was snubbed in favor of him. So clearly, I feel like there is, even if you take Nolan doing a World War II film, I still don't think it's
Daldry
necessarily
was already a
enough.
previous director nominee too, so it isn't like that was super shocking.
Yeah. Tilden wasn't. He was on anyone's radar.
I know.
Miss Globes, Miss BAFTA. Yeah.
Yeah, but so, I mean, that illustrates the point that they will vote for World War II Holocaust-y things, even if they're not super.
And that explains Nolan's miss for a Batman movie.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, the reader wasn't even like, it didn't even have like Intimidation Game level reviews. You know what I mean? At least the Intimidation Game got respectable reviews. The readers were like,
Kate Winslet was the front runner to win.
I know, but I mean, we've had front runners, win Best Actress without their film getting director or even.
I don't think it was Kate Winslet that pushed Stephen Daldry to a nomination. Thank you very much.
Then again, Stephen Daldry
overall.
I mean, Stephen Daldry might just have some voodoo magic on the Academy. I mean, that's the only explanation, because Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, I mean, that's still the most baffling nomination to me in the last 30 years.
Warner Brothers,
I don't know how that happened. Like, Scott Rudin and Warner Brothers is the only explanation. Because,
that's exactly how it happened, is Warner Brothers and Scott Rudin.
But, like, it was still so shocking when it happened. I remember when they announced it.
Oh, she played that so beautifully.
Yeah, it was.
With that pause.
And then it was
she
like, oh my God.
Get ready for this shit.
Because she knew it was going to be a surprise. Like, they knew it was going to shock people. So,
yeah, she kind of
had that played out for sure. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That might be her best performance.
I might not disagree. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Well, gosh, we could talk about so many more predictions, but I did just post our official July stuff. But I don't know. I kind of what?
Well.
Uh-oh.
The thing I need to ask you is,
Am
Kate
I not
Winslet,
predicting her?
You're not predicting
Let's
her.
see. No, I have her at 3.
Don't you have her at like 8th or something? I noticed.
I have her at 3.
You
do? I have Streep, Dench, Winslet.
Oh, maybe I was looking at my own predictions.
Are you predicting the Greatest Showman still, or no?
And
you
then
are.
Danielle Vega at 5. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about test screenings.
Oh, there's one thing. There was one thing I wanted to point out, and I think I'm the only one of the Gold Rush Gaming, probably one of the only ones on the forums who actually has Last Flag flying first for adapted screenplay ahead of Call Me by Your Name.
Yes.
That could totally happen.
I mean, it's just like Linklater is really respected. I think he got jobbed for Boyhood in terms of at least precursors. Like, I'm not a big Boyhood fan, but I mean, you look at the acclaim that movie got. He was nominated for picture, director, writing. Lost all 3 when it seemed possible for a while there that he could have conceivably won all 3. And you have, Carell, Cranston, who the two of them in the same movie could result in a lot of actoring.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Talk about ham.
Yeah. But Carell and Cranston have a lot of clout and respect right now. Whether they deserve it or not, it's there. It's real. And then you have Lawrence Fishburne, who I feel like is really respected. Hasn't been in a lot of sort of super acclaimed, super baity, whatever good movies. I hate to say it, but that's fair. Lately, and apparently he is sort of a standout, Fishburne, from what I've heard from test screenings, and that could solve the lack of diversity issue too.
List right now.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that, and I think it's got sort of the emotion, the heft, the weight potential. So. I mean, I'm really high on Call Me by Your Name too, but I feel like Last Flag Flying. It definitely feels like a writer's film, and
it's essentially an Alexander Payne road trip movie with war themes.
Yeah,
so
and if there's sentiment for Linklater to sort of give him an Oscar, I'm not sure if there is or not, frankly, but if it's there, I mean, this might be the perfect opportunity, right? So,
Well, supporting actor is actually a really great category
I'm just
for
waiting
a tremendous amount of non-white nominees. There's Fishburne, John Boyega, Jason Mitchell, Sterling K. Brown, maybe Idris Elba if Molly's Game ends up being anything. So there is potential there for that category.
Speaking of John Boyega, I really want him to happen.
same, yeah.
So
I'm kind of willing it to happen.
Weirdly though, I have a
And-
little bit of intel on that, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Okay.
I see you're in Will Porter.
Did you see
Will
see how
Poulter
that
with me.
happened?
Don't say that. Don't speak it into
Oh.
existence.
Yeah, me and you are like the only ones predicting Will
So-
Poulter. It looks like it's true. The rumors.
So okay,
Imagine
so
if
this
Will-
comes
Tea.
from somebody who just saw the film, and it is Will Poulter's film.
I'm literally cringing.
Oh man.
Excuse
Ah.
me?
Yeah,
Doesn't make sense.
Imagine if
And
Will
this is
Poulter
my
ends up the only
absolute
acting nominee for that
terrifying
movie.
fear.
Like,
there's
and it could
there's
happen. It could
already,
happen.
like Twitter backlash against the film and the trailer and how the cast is being presented and not having any black female representation and choosing elements of the Algiers Motel story and not others. So I mean there's a potential for a backlash even before this. But yeah, if Will Poulter became the only nominee for this movie, holy balls. It would be bad.
Twitter
I like
will not have it.
I'm gonna stand for him.
But I mean, supporting actor, that's where, villains, that's the thing there, That's where you see villains get nominated the most. Supporting actor, they love villains there. So I mean,
It is.
It's scary possible for
the
sure.
response
I mean,
from this person was like pretty intense about how good Poulter was, and that the film itself is very, very dark.
Happy to hear.
Did they?
I loved him in We're the Millers.
Period. I think he's great.
yeah. Oh, I have nothing against him. It's just the idea of him being the only nominee from the movie is
It's like
is problematic. I think.
James Woods getting in for like Ghosts of Mississippi. We're like, okay, so it's the bad white villain. Okay, I see. I don't know. I'm just throwing that.
Is John
No,
Boyega
actually.
supposedly lead?
Yeah.
Okay.
If
No,
there was
this
a
time
lead, it's
just
L.G.
ensemble.
Smith. But otherwise, it's a very ensemble piece.
Oh. Cool.
I wanted Boyega to get those young
when
Denzel
that
notices.
second trailer came out, his voice was so Denzel Washington. I was like, oh my gosh, this is either really awesome or a really bad choice.
Mhm.
So I hope so too. I mean, I
Oh, well,
definitely
we'll
hope
see.
for that. But I'm not going to predict two supporting actors from
one
this
th-
because that keeps biting us in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not doing that again
Yep.
because it hasn't happened since like 1991,
Yep,
I think.
Bugsy.
So it's one of those
Bugsy.
things. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's going to happen again
Yeah.
first for me to actually predict it. So
I mean, we haven't even had double supporting actress nominees in a while,
yeah.
and that used to happen
it seemed like it
every
might,
other year.
might have had the potential to happen
Or
with Hidden
more.
Figures, but not quite. But yeah, isn't it like Melissa Leo and Amy Adams?
When was the
Isn't
last
that
time?
the last time?
Ah, okay, 2009.
I think it might be.
I think so. Somehow it didn't happen for Emily Blunt and Anna Kendrick.
Sure.
Into the
Who?
Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one other supporting actor contender I wanted to mention because I think there's a lot of things going well for him right at this moment is Colin Farrell.
Yes.
For I don't know if it's whatever
I'm
it's
going to
called
will
now.
that to happen too.
Formerly Inner City. I'm just going to keep calling it Inner City because I hate the new title. I refuse to call it
the
that.
worst
So
title change pretty much of all time.
But I mean, if you think about it, Farrell was one of those guys who it seemed like his career was going a little off the rails. In the past few years, he's had a really big sort of resurgence. And we had The Lobster. Say what you will about True Detective season 2, but I would say he was the best thing about it. You had
he's got three things.
He got this year. You got The Beguiled here, Killing of a Secret here.
Beguiled, Killing.
So
right.
I mean, it seems like he's got all those ingredients for that first nomination to just like lock it down. So I mean, I feel very confident that if the film is good, he's in, because like it just seems like the perfect time for him to get that first nomination.
Sony dates that film, I will plug him and Denzel Washington in, but I'm holding off until that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like they'll announce it in the next few weeks, probably. So.
Do you know when the embargo
date
ends for Detroit?
Well, so isn't it playing the closing night of that?
Michael
Moore,
Travers.
Michigan Film Festival. So that's on, I think, the 29th
it's
or
gonna
30th
be right
of
before.
July. So, I mean, I don't know if the embargo. I would assume that's only like 5 or 6 days before the release anyway. So I feel like around then.
I'm worried. I did put it back at my number one for right now, but
What, Detroit? You just have to believe it'll be a financial success as well.
But I'm.
I feel like that could go either way.
If it's really dark, like you say, though, I mean that could be a problem.
But again,
so
there's no
it has to have the support from African American audiences. It's going to have to. If they feel that it is a movie that's not telling the right story, it will fail.
Well, you've seen like African American stories have done really well in August 8 lately. You know, Straight Outta Compton, The Help. But those movies had a real sort of like uplifting, hopeful current to them. Less so Straight Outta Compton, but still a little bit. And those movies weren't super dark. Like I'd say Straight Outta Compton had some sort of dark themes it dealt with, but it was done so in a sort of a crowd-pleasing way almost. Like it sort of, I don't want to say glorified it, but it made it a little more tolerable for mainstream audiences. And if Detroit like pulls no punches, that could be an issue.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, doesn't fit the mold of a lot of other types of AFM-centric films that seem to do well, like even the stuff last year, like Hidden Figures, or I think what you or even currently what's the Tupac movie. I mean, not that I'm sure that that's not light, but it's also probably not extremely dark, and it's about a famous, revered figure. So to have this, which is about, a not super, super famous incident, I suppose, I think a lot of audiences won't really have too much familiarity with the actual events. And so, I don't know if that audience, in terms of any demographic, will necessarily be there. And I don't think like African-American audiences are necessarily going to turn out for this movie as they would for a Tupac movie or Hidden Figures or,
well, I mean,
a Tyler Perry movie.
The Tupac
even.
movie had a good opening weekend, and then it tanked and just disappeared.
Exactly.
But I mean, something like Hidden Figures or The Help were PG-13 like and PG racism light movies. That brought in the white
this is
audiences
racism
as
heavy.
well.
So. Right. I feel like, I don't know what this movie's audience quite is. I suppose, just educated. I don't know what this demographic is. I'm thinking, just educated adults who maybe also.
Well, I mean, the weird thing is that something like Detroit and the Papers, which are like number 1 and number 2 right now, are both situations that happened 40 years ago that today are being absolutely mirrored and reflected, which is showing how much things have not changed in a lot of ways. So there's a very, very easy parallel to draw for both of those movies to be accessible. I just don't know if it is.
But people said the same thing about Fruitvale. Could this be another Fruitvale?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So was I.
I was really high on Fruitvale when it came out. Like I was predicting Michael B. Jordan at the time, and it just sort of it tanked. Like it didn't go anywhere. You know, I think it's really it just seemed like it seemed like it was going to be this prime contender. It seemed like Harvey just gave up on it after a while. So
Yeah, I felt like that was not the right studio for that type of film.
yeah,
But yeah, the box office
Strangely
wasn't
enough,
there
it was,
for whatever
I feel like
reason.
it was almost ahead of its time. And with the newer, younger studios now, they would have been able to manage it a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, that could have been like a great like A24 movie.
Absolutely.
yeah, they
Yeah.
would have done
You
great.
know?
Yeah, I'm most curious about this movie probably more than anything at all. I mean, mostly because I've been so high on it, but I'm also I'm just super cautious and curious for what the response is going to be. I want it to be the right movie more than I want it to be, the movie that is my awards pick.
Right.
I mean, if it's really dark, I mean, and it's really pulls no punches and it's sort of a really raw, intense look, that could really help it critically. But I mean, like, if you're an August movie, you can't tank at the box office and expect to be a top contender. You know what I mean? Like this movie needs to pull the double whammy of being critically acclaimed and a box office hit. That's the only way that it's going to have the legs until December, January. Because if it doesn't, I mean, I don't know if the critics are going to be enough to get it there.
This is first distributed film, so they are totally untested in this. This is going to be a really a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Matt described, I feel actually most confident in terms of, I feel pretty confident it will be critically acclaimed. I feel like it'll get reviews maybe similar to Bigelow's other recent films, or maybe a little bit less, but something very strong. But totally the sticking point is going to be the commercial appeal and potentially any backlash or blacklash.
Yeah.
So that could... I feel like it could be a really acclaimed, August release, but then it just kind of by December, no one is really still on the Detroit, the train to Detroit.
It's I get it. I totally get it. But I mean, one benefit about it coming out so early is that we'll be able to dismiss it as a contender or not sooner than a lot of other things.
Assess. Yeah, well, Dunkirk and Detroit in the next 2 weeks
Absolutely.
will have a lot of
so
more
like
information.
when our August predictions come out, we'll see where Dunkirk lands, and then when the September ones come out, we'll see where Detroit is at that point. And then also too, we'll have more festival reviews as well, and announcements. And
the interesting thing about Dunkirk and Detroit. The interesting thing about Dunkirk and Detroit is they both lack...
Start with D. So, go on.
They both lack big name sort of ensemble cast. Like I know Dunkirk has like Tom Hardy, but I read Tom Hardy has like 10 lines, and I wouldn't really call Tom Hardy a box office draw. Like people know who he is, but I mean if he's only got 10 lines...
Is Mark Rylance a box office draw?
I'm not sure he's quite there yet.
He's getting there though.
He's getting there. If he keeps working with Spielberg, people are going to know who he is at least.
Isn't Dunkirk only tracking 35 million?
God, really?
Yeah, pretty low by Nolan standards. But I mean,
holy shit.
But I mean,
yeah, that's the tracking. But I think when the reviews come out, that will tip the scales up or down.
It's such a short
little
movie.
bit.
It'll
Maybe
get more screenings per day.
Yeah.
But still, no one cares.
Yeah.
In my experience seeing other movies and the previews coming up, I felt a sense in the audience kind of that no one cares.
Yeah.
I didn't get a very invested vibe, and that prologue or whatever you call it, that 7-minute like extended sequence, I felt after it played, people were actually kind of confused. Or I think when I saw Wonder Woman, they interspersed like really weird 8-second clips of Dunkirk between other previews, and awful. That was very confusing. Yeah, I don't know if that happened to anyone else, but I'd never seen something like that. It was like a trailer for one movie and then a 10-second Dunkirk clip, and then another movie's trailer, and then a 10-second.
That's
Dunkirk
like watching
clip.
the
And they did that, like,
internet
3 or
in a
4
movie
times.
theater.
People started. I'm not even joking. People started laughing.
Oh, that's
after
bad.
the 3rd or 4th Dunkirk clip.
Yeah.
It
But
was
I mean,
weird.
With Nolan's other movies, like I felt a really palpable sense of sort of excitement and intrigue, sort of even his non-Batman movies like Inception, Interstellar, like, hey, this is really unique. This seems really out there.
Yeah.
With Dunkirk, it seems like people feel like they're either confused, like Richard said, at all the cross-cutting, or they're just
Well,
sort of
I mean,
like, oh, another World War
With
II
Inception,
movie,
you
right?
had like, you know,
It
the
doesn't have-
buildings folding. You're
it's-
like, oh my
it's-
god, that's so
it's-
cool. I can't see what else. You know, wait to see what else it's going to be. And then Interstellar was like, okay, it's being really cagey about, you know, aliens. And wait, was that an alien? And what is that? Is that a robot? What's going on? So there was at least,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And there is not.
There was like a cool factor.
Yeah.
Those also had stars bigger
Yes,
than
and
Mark Rylance
Tom
in the most
Hardy.
prominent role.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is dad porn. This is Sully kind of territory. This is a war movie. So you're taking an IMDb, like, you know, wet dream in Christopher Nolan, and he's directing a movie that old white dads would watch. So it's
And
weird. It's
At
weird.
least in the industry, Nolan is nowhere near Eastwood. Like in the industry, Eastwood is a god, and the industry, Nolan just his status seems very uncertain to me. Like I can't get a clear indication of how Nolan is perceived by the rest of the industry. But with Eastwood, I mean, like he's legendary to most people in the industry, and so I mean,
Yes, despite his personal qualities.
exactly, which is sort of the most amazing thing about it is that
Just saying.
Eastwood, despite sort of his political leanings, seems like people and most of the sort of Hollywood industry being, you know, Democratic and him being a Republican, it seems really amazing to me that he could withstand all those political sort of leanings and still have sort
Mel
of the
Gibson just got
reputation he does.
nominated.
So, I mean,
So
I think that's true. I wonder if there's just like this maybe small pack of Republicans in the Academy and they
Yes,
all get
and-
together and vote for each other. I don't know.
Maybe
But
they hold
At the
viewing
rest
parties
home.
and vote together.
yeah. John Voight's definitely there, that's for sure.
Woo! He's probably the
Oscar winner,
the
John
leader of
Voight,
the
yes.
email chain.
Hey, John Voight keeps getting Emmy
Oh my
nominations
God, I'm
for a
so
show
hoping
nobody
that does
seems to
not
care
happen on
about.
Thursday,
So I
but
mean,
oh my God, yes.
I don't know.
No to that. Sure.
At least let Leo Schreiber happen, right? I don't know. I don't watch the show, obviously.
Okay,
but
I think I'm gonna wrap us up. We spent so much time on supporting actor and like male acting stuff. This is like so unusual, but there we are. It is. It's
it's
like
twisted.
it is. It's alternate
happened? We have
universe.
me and Matt
on. So yes, what?
Do you have any parting comments about Frances
I love
McDormand?
her,
Who?
and the gif of her kicking that girl in the cooch is
Okay.
like my favorite thing this year.
Okay, good.
I'm rooting for her big time. I mean, she's like, first of all, Three Billboards looks like the only one of the few sort of intriguing awards fall season films to me. But I mean, she looks like she's having a blast in it, and it'd be fun to see sort of that type of fun sort of freewheeling
I want the
performance
screenplay
in.
to get in just from the
So
trailer.
I'm-
It was just so profane and juicy and nasty. Oh, I loved it.
Sounds like Box
Yeah.
Searchlight held that movie for like literally a year when they could have released it last year instead of Jackie, and decided to like place all bets and think it'll do better in this 2017 awards.
Further proof that Natalie Portman ruins any and everything.
Yay, we're back to actresses.
Ah,
Yes. But yes. Yeah, Natalie Portman. Let's not. I'll just take I'll just
go
take
there.
the Shea Coulee position on
shoulda
Natalie
won.
Portman.
Be-
Natalie Portman? What?
Oh my god. I
Critics'
died.
Choice got it right.
Natalie Portman. Yeah. She's
No,
definitely
no,
not
nobody-
the Shea Coulee brand.
Most
Or the Awards Watch brand,
Yes, most
except for a
likely
few
not.
disturbed souls.
Okay, all right. We're trailing. Yes, we did.
Okay. Got that
yeah,
out
I think
of there.
we're hitting the 2 hour mark, so I want to let people off the hook a little bit. But I would thank you all so much for joining today. I was really stoked to have so many of my gang on here. It was nice, and especially those that have not been in a long time. So it was great. It was awesome. So
Well,
Thanks for
with
having
the
me.
mostest.
thank you,
Indeed.
hostess.
Do you guys want to
Of
tell
course.
people where they can find you on Twitter and other social media? Yes, we know
I
you
don't
are
use
a
social media.
recluse.
Okay. At Jason Osaya on Twitter.
I'm at Matt24Js. I'm mostly whining about baseball and sport, and but
Okay.
the
Well, you're
occasional
not
tweet-
gonna get me followers then.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. But the occasional awards movie tweets. So, and I'll be at TIFF this year. So I'll be seeing
Exactly,
some
and
of
then we can
those
have you
and,
on,
tweeting
and
about
maybe I'm
them,
gonna
so.
hit TIFF this year. I'm trying to. We'll see. I know.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe I haven't been there yet. I really need to.
Tip sharing.
Yeah.
Making up
I
for
always
missing
do.
Cannes.
I wish I could go every year. I love that place. It's awesome. Okay, so as far as Awards Watch, you can follow us at awards_watch on Twitter and Awards Watch on Instagram and Facebook, and I think that's it, really. That's I'm Snapchat. I'm like, what
That's
am I
all.
doing here? What would I even possibly do? No, I'm not doing this. But so there you go.
Just snap
was-
Frances
that would-
McDormand gifs.
I could do that. Maybe put some bunny ears on her or something. All right, so yeah, there we go. Let's wrap it up. I'm getting the wrap up from the yes, from the booth. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
from the
again,
booth.
thank you, boys. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you later.